Hello, everyone. If you're watching from Egypt, good evening. If you're watching from the US, good afternoon. My name is Karim Sheta, and I am the founder of the page Food for Thought. And today we'll be talking about a very critical topic, and that is embracing our strengths and optimism. So, why is this topic important? Well, you can always resort when you face any problems in life, you can resort to a lot of external methods. But at the end of the day, the most important tool is your own inner values, your own inner strengths and optimism. And to talk to us more about this vital topic, we have two very special and inspiring guests, Lisa Birnesser and Sarah Pipher. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Good
Thank
to be
you.
here.
Very excited to have you guys on board, and I can't wait to get things started. So let's dive right into the introductions because I'm sure our viewers want to know a lot more about you. So let's start with Lisa. Tell us a bit about yourself and how you were drawn to the world of positive psychology.
Great. Thanks, Kareem. I'm a positive psychology master coach at Unlock Your Inner Potential Coaching, where overwhelmed and entrepreneurs and business owners hire me to help add new programs or services to their business, creating more profit and time for what matters most. My background is 35 years in the healthcare arena as an occupational therapist and 16 years as a massage therapist. And I own Transformations Massage and Wellness Center since 2007 and coach since 2010. Um, I guess it was about 2009 because I was considering coaching at that point, and I began to see how many people were struggling with stress and that they thought that the high level of stress was normal. And what it was happening is it was dramatically affecting their health and their relationship and their overall happiness. And I was really drawn to positive psychology since it focuses on strengths and positive experiences like happiness and positive traits like resilience and gratitude and compassion. And it was so cool because positive psychology has so much scientific research behind it. And so it was the go for me.
Thank you so much. Wow, that's an amazing introduction. And just so our viewers know, we have complete detailed biographies for Lisa and Sarah in the previous post. But just in case anyone hasn't viewed them yet, we'll get to know them here a bit more. So that's amazing, Lisa. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you.
Sarah, what about you? How were you drawn to positive psychology and what's your background like?
Well, I'm a wife, a mom of two young men, and I live outside New York City. I am a positive psychology coach. Um, I support professionals who have hit a bump in the road or have lost their spark for their jobs, or maybe they're just ready to do something different. I help them to identify and achieve those biggest dreams. So even if they don't even know what they are yet. I have a corporate background. I used to work off of Wall Street as a fintech, and I, I'm sorry, I've got a lot of distractions over here.
No worries.
But I gave up my dream job to stay home with my kids, and it really I came to a conclusion that you don't have to do that. There are so many other things and other ways to get around this. So what really drew me to positive psychology is when I was home, both my boys were suffering. They were suffering at school. They were angry, coming home frustrated, and it just really, I felt it. And I went for a walk with one of my girlfriends. And as we were walking, I was just letting loose. I was just complaining the entire time. And I got home and I kind of started to reflect on that. And I thought, oh gosh, that's not who I want to be. And I started to dig into different ways that I could boost myself. And that was really, unbeknownst to me, my beginning of positive psychology, kind of getting into optimism and getting into meditation and all these different aspects of what I now know are positive psychology.
That's actually a very good point. I think also Lisa would agree with this. Like a lot of things that we find out are all related or combined in a science that is positive psychology. This is very interesting. If people knew about it a bit more, I think we'd save a lot of time and pressure. So that's
Yep.
awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I really admire how you both like have such versatile backgrounds, and you just basically you impact a lot of people, whether it's family members, corporate members. It's just awesome. So, with that, with both those amazing introductions, let's dive into what we're here for today, and that is strengths and optimism. So, let's start with the first section, and that is strengths. So basically, the first question will be, how do we define our own strengths? Is there a test of some sort that we take? Can we ourselves analyze our own strengths? How does it go? Because some people think, oh, I know my strengths. It's a typical interview question, but it might not be that easy. So, Lisa, what do you think?
Sure. So there's lots of ways to determine strengths. And some people are aware of their strengths, but I don't think as much as a deeper level if they take some sort of assessment to see the wide variety of strengths. Because we can only name 3, 5 at a time. But those strengths are so important because during difficult times or everyday tasks, you need to pull from them to get through the day. So I found the best and most efficient way to see your character strengths is through VIA character survey. I'll call it VIA for short. Character strengths are a positive part of your personality that impact how you feel, how you behave, and how you think. And according to VIA, you have 24 character strengths in varying degrees. So research shows that applying these strengths can help you reduce your stress, boost your confidence, and help you accomplish goals. Um, the VIA shows how your strengths are ranked, first showing the top 5 character strengths that you have. So it's not like a report card. So when you get that, you're going to say, oh, I did really, really good in creativity, but I'm last in gratitude. And it's not like that, because those strengths are going to shift with different parts of your life and what you're practicing.
Yeah.
So you could target like a lower rated skill and increase it, which I think is really cool. So if you wanted to increase gratitude, start practicing, and you're going to increase that strength. So we have all of these 24 strengths. It's how you polish them.
That's one of the things that I really like about the VIA survey is that I may be, I happen to be high up in humility and fairness and these things that I kind of think are as foo-foo, right? But my leadership strengths are right below there. And so when I use those leadership strengths, then I'm incorporating my fairness while I'm using it. So just understanding how to use those together and to recognize, like as Lisa said, that it's not really so much a hierarchy as just pointing out what is your strongest strength. We all have these strengths.
Right, right.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these strengths are core to who we are. And if you don't take this particular survey, the VIA characters, there's other ways you can find out. I mean, you could ask your friends, right? Or you could there's other strength finders. So there's the Myers-Briggs, or there's another one I'm more familiar with, and that's the Clifton. I'm sorry, yes, Clifton, because Clifton Gallup, I get those two confused, but the Clifton Strength Finders is a whole nother category. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Is that like also like how is it different from the VIA? So is it like a series of questions, or how does it go, the Clifton test?
It too is a series of questions. It comes up with 35 different categories. They're a little bit less of character strengths. They might be more of it's hard to different. One is more, I think, heart-centered, where the other one is maybe more action-centered, more business focused. That's how I describe those. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Are you familiar with that test, Lisa?
I am not. I've seen it, but I've never taken it or participated in it at all. I've always leaned towards the VIA.
Yeah, same here, same here. Yeah, it's fun I think we're all learning from each other today. That's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just
Yeah,
going
go
to say, one of the things that I have found by working with either one of them is that when you are in alignment, things just flow, that there's less conflict in what you're doing. There's more spark and joy in the jobs that you're finding. So if you're not working in your current flow, if you're not working within those strengths, then there are ways, even in your current job or your current situation, to start pulling those in.
on.
Yeah. And I mean, even though there's actually traits that you can target in the VIA that are directly related to happiness. How cool is that? I mean, obviously Martin Seligman created this, but like curiosity, gratitude, optimism, and hope, loving and being loved, and zest for and enthusiasm for life, and strengthening those things, you're creating inner happiness.
Yes, yes, I completely agree. And I just want to re-emphasize something that Lisa said and Sarah, which, because if anyone's watching, I had that misconception. I thought that the strengths that were ranked at at the bottom of the list are your sort of weaknesses. But no, it's something that you already have. You just need to boost a bit more, and you'll eventually get to it, as you both mentioned. So I'm really happy you guys emphasized on that point. Okay, perfect. So now we have the basis. How do we define our own strengths? Let's slowly transition to both of your coaching experiences. And my first question is a two-part one. The first part is, when a client approaches you, or a friend or a colleague, whoever it may be, how do you know that they need help with their strengths? Like, how can you say, okay, I think I should help coach him on his strengths in particular, aside from resilience and whatnot? That would be the first part. The second part, what are your approaches accordingly? How do you approach the matter? Do you use a certain technique? So basically, how do you handle the issue? Lisa, the floor is yours, and we'll go to Sarah afterwards.
Sure. Um, well, the first thing that I do when I have an introductory session with somebody, so the first one is like 90 minutes, so we go kind of dive deep, is that I ask them their 5 top strengths and to see how they respond to that. It's going to flow throughout different parts of their life. It's going to show up in how they are um, working in the world, or being in the world, or being in their life. Are they showing up? Are they how is their confidence? So there's going to be different factors that affect it that are going to give me a cue that
Mm-mm.
they need to expand. Um, so I emphasize, but where I emphasize it, once I have them take the VIA, because that's one of the core assessments I have them take, I really emphasize that during their goals section, because then they realize that that's part of them that they can use in their tools. And it really is kind of like this rocket fuel to up level their business and life.
It's really cool, and I love how you integrated both like strengths and goals together, because sometimes people feel it's a separate issue, but no, you can integrate more than one thing at the same time. It's very interesting. Okay, very cool. Sarah, what about you? How do you approach the matter, and when do you resort to coaching on strengths?
I think people, it's imperative that people understand their strengths. So I think it's with Lisa, as with Lisa said, it's something that you want to bring in right away, because when you start working in those strengths, everything else comes together. You start just to feel more connected and grounded, and a light kind of comes on, and I say, oh, I have this strength. How can I work with it? How can I look at problems a little bit differently and come to maybe a better understanding of what's happening, and maybe a more optimistic outlook?
Yeah,
Nice.
I love how you talked about alignment, because that's what it's all about. It's aligning strengths and values and goals, and get all the extraneous stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it helps you to understand what is important in life and what you can kind of get rid of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think just understanding our strengths is absolutely critical. So I think it's something that should be introduced immediately with clients, but also touched upon just about every time to make sure you're constantly working in your strengths. It should be something that you're touching on daily.
Mm-hmm. So what you're both saying is that, and I love how you both are like in sync, like, you know, separate states, separate people, but you're both just in sync and in the flow with the same ideas. So what you're both saying is strength is not like something that you study alone or tackle alone. It's sort of like a building block, something that complements different aspects in your life. That's a very interesting way of looking at it. Okay, perfect. So now that we've defined the importance of strengths, and from your experience, when should we resort to it, which is pretty much always, um, I'm sure people would love to hear some, not necessarily stories, but sort of like a proof that okay, it works. So you've coached a lot of clients over the years, friends, colleagues, and family members, and whatnot. Uh, Maybe you have a certain memory, maybe one or two memories that you'd like to share, which prove that coaching strengths or focusing on your strengths is important. So, Lisa, do you have one in mind?
I do. And it's interesting as I was thinking about this, how optimism and strength rolls together, because each of these examples that I came up with, that's how they flowed. So I once worked with a healthcare practitioner whose top strength was spirituality. And she really began to realize that the healthcare center that she was working for did not support the expression of her spirituality. So as we worked together, along with other factors, she realized that she wanted to explore other employment. It just like she had such an urge to have her purpose as her legacy, and that's she wanted to be in a place that supported her work. And she eventually went and did her own thing and had her own business. But what she got was clarity around the readiness to explore other careers. And she saw this wide variety of, like, I'm a kid in a candy shop, I've got more strengths here than I thought.
I, I can totally relate to that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But go ahead, Sarah. Please go ahead.
Um, I just thought that was a great example. I have my own personal story, and that was I took a job, and I was really excited about it, but I was kind of being told to learn about it this particular way. And that was to sit in front of a computer and stare at this program over and over and over until I could get up and speak to the world about it. And I used to be a professional um, presenter. I used to present all around the country, around the world, actually. But they wanted me to learn this particular product. It was a computer system. And they wanted me to learn it, but just by playing with it on there. That's not how to learn, by people asking me questions on how, and for me to understand how is this used, so that I can say, oh, this is how you use it. And that actually made me, because I wasn't learning in the way that I learned, it made me really sick. So once I finally understood how, again, my strengths, I was able to ask and have things switched around so that I could learn in what was advocate, right? Advocate for me what was going to work better. And then in alignment, I soared. I was really, in alignment, everything worked out well. But at that time, I thought I was going to lose my job. It was really scary. So just understanding what my strengths were and being able to advocate for that made all the difference.
Mhm. It's very interesting. So, like, I think the common aspect between both Lisa's story and Sarah's story is that at the end of the day, there has to be the element of taking the first step or the risk or the initiative. So you can define your strengths all you want. You can be proud of what you have, but unless you take that first step, it's sort of pointless. Not to be too blunt, but it's true. It needs that first push. So it's very, very, very interesting. Okay, so far you guys have covered what is strengths, how you can coach it, or what exercises you can use, how they have affected people's lives. So I think people have a full grasp of what is strength and how they play a role in our lives. Now let's shift to a neighbor, which is the optimism, or what I like to call the art of optimism. Um, I don't think we really have to define it or spend too much time discussing what it is. However, there is a certain aspect that I'd love to hear your guys' opinions about, which is Like, if you're a realistic person, does that mean you're optimistic or pessimistic or sort of a combination between both or even neither? So, what do you guys think? Lisa, what do you think?
I look at optimism, realism, and pessimism in a like a timeline or continuum. Um, that realism's in the middle, optimism's on one side, pessimism's on the other. So you could have too much optimism and not enough realism and no pessimism. So it's kind of like let's work a balance. So I like to say, you can have some optimism with a couple of dashes of realism because you need optimism to be able to. It's just a positive strength to be able to build your resilience and move through difficult times. However, you have to be realistic about it. And it's not like the kiss of death that what you want isn't going to happen. It's just like, okay, well, you're going to be a little bit more prepared and have a plan.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Very cool. I'm just contemplating or reflecting what you said because that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Sarah, what do you think? What's your perspective?
So, and I absolutely agree. I see it as a continuum as well. And I recognize that we're bouncing around on that continuum, right? You might be more realistic about one aspect or one project or component of your life and more optimistic on the others. And it really is about bringing some balance. You want to have that objectivity, but you also want, and you want to be optimistic, but you definitely need to plan. And having that grounding, you're definitely preparing for the best
Mm-hmm.
while simultaneously preparing for the worst, right? But you're keeping that upper, higher level thinking and opportunities.
Mm-hmm. You both have a common feature, which is you know how to convey the information in a very concise way. You it's like every word I'm not just flattering you guys. No, every word you say is very valuable. So really, thank you very much. I'm learning a lot today. Um,
I was
okay,
just
good.
we haven't really talked about grounded optimism, right? And looking at where does that optimism come from? And if you're doubting yourself, then you can always look back at something that you've previously done, something
Mhm,
that you were successful at, and pull out components of that and say, I've done that before. I can do this again. It's going to
mhm,
be okay, right?
mhm.
When you find yourself in that maybe negative space.
I remember when I first joined the course, I thought grounded optimism was the same as optimism, but no, it's actually like that ideal balance between that and realism and all that. And the story, I think, and I'm sure you both heard the story from Bocco in his course, which is about the pilot and like if for whatever reason the plane is falling, the pilot shouldn't be like, oh, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay. No, he has to be like, okay, we have to take the the procedures and the cautions and everything. So yeah, definitely I agree with both of you. There has to be that balance, and I love how you compared it to sort of like a spectrum or a range of some sort. So that's amazing. Okay, now comes the important question, which was also a big shock to me when I joined the course. Are there exercises or practical methods to increase your level of optimism? Because when I first joined, I thought, okay, I'll just change my mindset. But actually, no, it's not just that. So, are there other methods, Lisa, or what do you think?
I think it can be integrated in with thoughts because it's here's what happens, here's the thoughts, and then it's what is the outcome. So if, for example, you were laid off
Mm-hmm.
and you were laid off, you're sitting down. So when the brain isn't occupied, it's going to fill in the story. So somebody can say, well, I lost my job. They fired me after all that time I've spent in, they can complain and create this story when the realism part of it. So we've gone from pessimism. The realistic part of it is, no, I wasn't fired. Um, they really didn't want to see me go, but they had to do a layoff in order to save to keep the company open. And this is an opportunity for me, pessimism or optimism. This is an opportunity for me to be able to do something completely different that I've always wanted to do.
Mhm.
So you can actually move that process of changing your mindset into that spectrum.
Mm, I see what you mean. Okay.
And
So,
I kind of feel like that's the biggest secret, right? It can be taught. Optimism, you can learn, right? To be optimistic.
yes. So don't tell anyone. Yeah, that's true. Very true. Yeah. It can be taught. So, like, so what's your take on that, Sarah? Like, how can it be taught? How can it be conveyed to the people?
Um, I think one of the quickest ways to change your optimism, to improve your optimism, is to catch yourself in your negative thoughts. So when you can catch yourself, you want to say, whoa, stop, and try and reframe it. And the
Mhm.
more often you can identify that you're having that negative thought, the more often you're going to be able to switch it around. The other thing you can do is you can actually, um, kind of like a sports athlete, how they train themselves to kind of go through the course before they get there, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
They're mentally prepping and they're seeing themselves in that situation. We can learn to do the same thing. If we're going to get up and speak in front of 500 people, right? And fear of public speaking is one of the biggest fears that people have. We
Yep.
can kind of go up there and walk ourselves through it. What's it going to look like? How's it going to, sound? What am I going to experience and feel all that? And kind of walk ourselves through even grounded optimism, even though we haven't done it yet. So you
Mhm.
can prepare for the things in the future that you haven't experienced by kind of anticipating or running through what it is in an ideal situation.
Mhm.
Or again, you can refer back to things that you've done before and say, I've got this, I've done this before.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think there's lots of different ways we can really improve our optimism. Lots of different experiments. There's, we get into journaling about things that, again, our ideal day. First thing in the morning, what is my ideal day going to look like? How
Mhm.
is that going to unfold?
Mhm. So what you both are saying, it's pretty much about the mindset, but how you approach the situation. So how you think about it and how you utilize those thoughts, because you guys both fixated on the point of thinking and thoughts and all that. Um, okay, so if that's from a mental perspective, is there a practical perspective? So like I remember, there was this exercise I read about in the course called the sentence completion exercise, where you like give them like the openings of different sentences, and then the client himself or herself has to finish that sentence. So for example, if I were to get $1 million, I think we did it in one of the classes, I believe. My memory is really bad, but what do you guys think about like practical versus mental? So like Lisa, which one would you prefer, or does each one have its own pros and cons?
I think there's value to both. I, I,
Mm,
there, there has, like you said earlier, there has to be action attached to a thought. I mean, there's thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it, but then there's like you got to at some point take some action towards it. And so I think by practicing or having some sort of exercise, I think that that's valuable because if somebody doesn't take the action, they're just going to stay stagnant.
okay, I see your point. Sarah, what about you?
I actually love that writing exercise that you're talking about. It's, yeah, you're completing like 5 sentences every day for a week. And then you kind of go back and you don't look at it. And then you go back and you look at it and you see kind of what are the commonalities. And you can take that information and say, these are the ones that I want to think of more often.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be reflecting more on that. I think having a practical side to it and practicing this every day is going to really, really increase your optimism. It's going to make you see your day to day life in a different framework. And one of the things that we know is that optimistic people they're the ones that are setting goals, they're good planners, they're more action oriented, they're more realistic, and they're more mindful. So these are
Mm-hmm.
these are all traits that I think we all probably want to incorporate into our lives. So
True.
just waking up in the morning, and as you're opening up, give a good smile, right? It's one of the things that we've always learned. Smile for dopamine, smile. Even if it's 5 a.m., smile and say,
Yeah.
what's my ideal day going to look like? Is it going to go flow smoothly, right? We want it to smooth flow smoothly. So
Yeah.
we have control of that.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it is up to us at the end of the day. That's very true. Now, speaking or building on that point, Sarah and Lisa, um, we definitely agree that it's all up to us. But what if there are some challenges along the way? Because yeah, we can increase our strengths. Yeah, we can increase our optimism. But it's not that easy at the beginning. Like in order to implement the exercises to change our train of thought, I think it takes a lot of willpower. So I would love to hear from you guys some advice for our viewers, like in case they try to be more powerful or optimistic. What if they want to give up or they feel it's too challenging to do it? What advice would you give them? So Lisa, what advice would you give?
Keep going.
Yeah.
Because at that point, when you want to give up, there's a great story with Napoleon Hill where he talks about the miner being 3 feet from gold. And that's generally when somebody's ready to give up, it's like, just keep going, because it's, if you see it, it's there. If you feel it, if you know it, if you're working towards it, it's there. If, goals are always made to course correct, but when you say, I don't feel like doing it, it's a brain, it's how your brain is responding. So part of your brain is saying, oh, forget it. I don't want to do it. I want to go play on TikTok. But there's part of your brain that says, let's go. I want to get this done. So you have to listen to this part instead of the old feeling part.
Mm, that's awesome. I completely agree, and I like that you took it from a scientific perspective. Sarah, what's your advice?
So if somebody's really struggling, I would start small. I would put on some uplifting music. Um, Reminisce about something that happened that was good in your life. Maybe it could be when you're 5, it might be 10, 20, whatever. Just think of something really good in your life and think about that. Like really immerse yourself, feel how great that was. Um, get rid of the to-do list and just take time for yourself. Uh, Create something. Like, what are you good at? Um, Using your hands, just kind of get in the zone, get in your flow. And again, with the background music, some great music, just feel, let yourself feel. And hopefully you'll find a couple of minutes to be able to do that and come back out more optimistic and um, aware of your strengths, right? Working in those as well will help to shift you. And if you can take a couple minutes each day, that really starts to accumulate, and you'll find that you can take that further and further. In fact, there's the Barbara Feldman's, her positivity ratio, right?
Mhm.
You could take that little survey. Probably takes all of 2 minutes.
Yeah.
To do that survey in a couple times a week, and just see if you're kind of incrementally getting happier, right? If you're scoring a little higher on that. But that is what we need: 6 or 9 thoughts, positive thoughts to a negative thought. So you'll start to see a continuum if you take out some time to think about things that give you pleasure, or
Mhm.
things in the past that have happened that are inspiring.
Mhm. I think what's more inspiring, in addition to what you said, and Lisa, is the fact that, and this is a message to our viewers, like both Lisa and Sarah are not giving you information that is, just like empty talk or just motivational speech. No, this is based on experiences and science. And what makes it evident is that both of our guests today are speaking with passion because this is something they have faced, something they have seen and witnessed in real life in themselves and others. So I definitely advise you to take their words by heart because I know I will. Amazing, Lisa and Sarah. Like, I would definitely love to keep this going for God knows how long, because it's such an intriguing topic. And as I said at the beginning, I'm learning so much from you guys. But I'm sure this will not be our last interview. We'll have many more to come. Um, but before we wrap up, also, if you have some, as they say, words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience, whether about today's topic or in general, I'm sure we'd love to hear it. So we'll start with Lisa and go to Sarah, then we'll wrap up. So go ahead, Lisa.
Well, there's an opportunity to cultivate happiness, and it's not just something that's unachievable. It's not found outside of you. And the thing to remember is life is happening now. Life is happening right in this present moment. So look at what habits support your goals and replace those habits with the things that of the goals that aren't supporting you. And utilizing your strength and optimism are definitely ways to cultivate happiness.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much. Very sweet and simple. Sarah.
I would suggest everybody take the VIA character survey. It takes maybe all of 15 minutes, but it's going to give you some insight. And that'll give you some groundwork, and that'll be a way for you to start improving your own optimism and your strengths. Another thing I would say is just do something that brings you every single day.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's amazing. I think not I think, I believe our viewers will want to follow you as well. So for anyone watching, by the time you see this, I'll have taken some links and references from Lisa and Sarah, so you can check them out in the description. And please follow Lisa and Sarah. They're both amazing figures that you should definitely hear from and stay in touch with as much as possible. Once again, thank you guys so much for being here today. I know you have very busy schedules and it's your weekend, and but I really appreciated you guys being here today. I've learned so much, and the people will as well. For anyone watching, because of the time difference and everything, if you have any questions, even if it's not now, just send them or post them in the comments below, and I'll be sure to convey them to Lisa and Sarah. Regarding comments, they're all just compliments. So we have someone from Egypt, Muhammad Indewi. Hi, Muhammad, who's just thank you guys really a lot and just said one word: awesomeness. So that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you guys so much again. I'm really happy to see you today, and take care until we meet again very soon.
Thank you
Thank
for having us.
you, Green. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Bye bye and see you soon. Bye.
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 Bye.